MotoGP has a ruthless habit of flipping a champion's momentum into doubt almost overnight. In November 2024, Jorge Martin was standing at the peak, #1 plate secured, reputation forged by back-to-back title battles, and the natural belief that the next chapter would be even bigger. Champions are meant to build forward, not start again. But 2025 didn't become a title defense. It turned into a disappearance, a contract storm, and a season that forced Martin to relearn what progress even means when your body refuses to cooperate. And that's the first context most people miss when they judge his year purely by results. This wasn't a performance collapse. It was a season constantly interrupted, where rhythm, the most valuable currency in modern MotoGP, was taken away from him again and again. 4 major injuries, 4 surgeries, long stretches away from the bike. Martin never got the single thing a rider needs to truly judge a new factory project. Repetition. Not one race, not one sprint, not one test. Repetition. MotoGP is unforgiving even when you're fully fit. In 2025, the margins were tighter than ever because the sprint format compresses pressure into every moment of a weekend. Riders aren't just building towards Sunday anymore. They have to be sharp, immediately qualify, flat out, sprint, flat out, then still have something left for the race. That's manageable if you trust your body and understand your bike. It becomes a minefield if you're learning a new machine while riding through pain. Martin said it himself late in the year. Still, when I ride, I have pain in my ribs, on my back, on my collarbone, on my shoulders. So to ride like this is really difficult. That wasn't a plea for sympathy, it was an explanation. Lap time isn't just courage. It's what your body allows you to repeat. Even before 2025, Martin's career had already been shaped by injuries most riders never fully recover from. Back in 2021, he endured multiple fractures and surgeries, including that brutal Portuguese GP weekend, with impacts over 20G and one peak at 26G. He'd rebuilt himself before, but in 2025, the setbacks were stacked so tightly that the season stopped being about finding form and became about simply surviving the calendar. And that's where Aprilia's story becomes the real twist. Because while Martin was fighting just to return, Aprilia was quietly proving something crucial. The RSGP wasn't the dead-end project that critics, and even Martin at his lowest, feared it might be. Marco Bezzecchi's arrival changed the narrative. Coming from VR 46, he learned the bike, and as the season progressed, he didn't just look competitive, he became the reference. He took his first Aprilia win at the British Grand Prix, then added more victories before the year was out. By season's end, he had 9 podiums and 3 Grand Prix wins. Aprilia climbed to its best ever second place in the constructors' standings, behind only Ducati. Trackhouse added fuel to that momentum too. Raul Fernandez won the Australian Grand Prix and collected 2 more podiums. These weren't the results of a team merely improving. These were the results of a project becoming genuinely relevant. Aprilia CEO Massimo Rivola called the year an emotional roller coaster and admitted it didn't start as planned. But his explanation revealed how the factory viewed the bigger picture. The goal was to give the riders a few months, then be in a position to fight for podiums. That was always the ambition. Then came the injuries. And then came the second crisis, the Honda saga, which turned 2025 from a sporting story into a political one. Rivola confirmed how serious it became when Martin's manager approached him. Albert Valera came and said, "I think we could leave. Honda is very interested. The offer is really good." Rivola's response was immediate disbelief. He went straight to Martin to hear it himself. Flying to Madrid the next day, Martin confirmed it. "I think it's better for me to leave." Rivola's answer was firm. "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to let you go." That exchange matters because it captures Martin's mindset at the darkest point of the year. Confined after Doha, physically battered, watching his new team win without him, he began doubting not just his form, but his future. He admitted that at one stage, he stopped following races altogether, needing to disconnect during recovery. For a reigning champion, that's not normal. That's mental fatigue, a rider trying to shield himself from reminders of what he couldn't control. Ironically, the same victories that hurt him became the proof that eventually shifted his perspective. Martin later spoke with rare honesty about that conflict. From his side, it was complicated. On one hand, Aprilia's performance motivated him to come back. On the other, he didn't like seeing them succeed while he was absent. That admission is brutally human jealousy, mixed with relief, pride tangled with frustration. And it reveals something essential about champions. They don't just want the team to win, they want to be the reason it wins. Rivola understood that and tried to use success as a bridge back to Martin emotionally. After Bezzecchi's Silverstone victory, he sent Martin a voice message. "Come on, we can do that. You can also do that. Get well soon." It wasn't just encouragement, it was Aprilia saying, "This project is real. Don't walk away from it." When Martin finally returned and had enough seat time to evaluate his situation properly, his language shifted. The anger softened into analysis. After Valencia and the test, he spoke like a rider rebuilding fundamentals. "Physically, nothing is okay. I just need to recover, not feel pain. That's the main thing." He drew a clear line between suffering and performance. "Riding like this," he said, "is extremely difficult." And then he quantified the challenge. He believed there was a 6 to 10 tenths gap to winning. In MotoGP terms, that's enormous. Half a second can mean the difference between victory and fighting in the second group. But what mattered was how he framed it. He wasn't blaming the bike alone. He described a combined deficit, understanding, confidence, and physical freedom to take risks. He even pointed to the lesson his crashes taught him. Sometimes, he admitted, he tried to do more than what he needed to do because he didn't yet understand the bike. That's why he crashed. That's a rider acknowledging he tried to force lap time without a foundation. And that's why 2026 suddenly becomes so compelling. If Martin truly commits to building that foundation first, the upside is massive, because the RSGP has already shown it can win. This is also where the story pivots into the question that will fuel MotoGP debates all winter. Martin has finally said the quiet part out loud. Ducati was always the dream. He's never hidden that Plan A was the Ducati Lenovo team. After 2 title-fighting seasons with Pramac, he naturally expected promotion. Ducati chose a different path, signing Marc Marquez instead. When that door closed, Martin took Aprilia, a logical factory move on paper, but emotionally difficult when you believe you've earned the red bike. So comes the hypothetical that will never die. What if Martin had stayed on Ducati machinery in 2025, with continuity, experience, and the same bike for another year? His answer was careful but telling. "We'll never know," he said. But comparing Alex Marquez's season and race times from 2024 to 2025, he believed he could have fought for it. Then he raised the stakes. He would have given 100%, and he thinks that might have been enough to fight, not necessarily to beat Marc, because that can't be known now. What makes the claim powerful is the respect that followed. What Marc did in 2025, Martin said, was extraordinary, but he still considers himself strong. With another year on the same bike and more experience, he believes he could have fought at the top. It's not bitterness, it's belief. He went further, explaining why Marquez is such a unique rival. On track, Marc is relentless, a competitive beast who will always try to win, even if it means risking everything. Off track, his words carry weight. What Marc says in a press conference can affect you psychologically. To fight the best Marc Marquez, Martin said, "You have to be completely prepared." And then came the line that sounds like a warning for the future. "The best Marc is going to make me a better rider." This isn't just Ducati regret. It's Martin defining who he believes he still is. He said it outright. He sees himself as one of the reference riders, alongside Marc Marquez, Fabio Quartararo, Pecco Bagnaia, and Pedro Acosta. When asked if injuries pushed him out of the spotlight, he dismissed it. He feels he's always there, for one reason or another. That confidence matters, because 2026 is a disguised opportunity. Martin is under contract through the end of that year, but he knows he can't afford another lost season. Bezzecchi has raised expectations in the same garage. Martin himself admits he's still learning what the Aprilia needs, and that there are no shortcuts. At the same time, his mindset is now shaped by a different inspiration: the Marquez comeback mentality. "Our sport is dangerous, and it will always be like this," he said, before embracing a nickname he once disliked. "My nickname is Martinator, like Terminator. I didn't like it at the beginning, but now I feel it. I feel it because I am half titanium and half muscle." Then, he defined greatness in a way that sounds like a personal manifesto. The greatest athletes aren't just the ones who win the most. They're the ones who come back after loss and keep fighting until they win again. That, he said, is completely his mentality. He named Nadal, Djokovic, and Marc, and set his own goal. When he retires, he wants to be remembered as someone who never gave up. So what's the real story of Jorge Martin's 2025? Not that he failed to defend a title, not that Aprilia wasn't good enough. The truth is that his season became a perfect storm of physical setbacks and political tension. And inside that storm, two things became clear. He still believes he belongs at the very top, and he now understands he can't force that reality through impatience. We'll never know what a straight Ducati on Ducati title fight between Martin and Marquez in 2025 would have looked like. But 2026 might answer something even more interesting. What happens when a champion with a battered year behind him finally gets a clean start on a bike that's already proven it can win? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.